I'm going to show you how to roll out stromboli. Now, I'm assuming you already have some dough. I made my dough in my bread machine. You can also make it from scratch the old-fashioned way. You can get refrigerated dough. Pillsbury makes some. You can get all kinds of different ways to do this, but we're going to assume you already have dough for the sake of this video. So the next thing you want to do, first thing you want to do is you want to get your flour, your surface well floured. I'm using a pastry cloth, just like I do when I make pies, because my counter surface is tile and it's not completely flat. If you have a totally flat, clean surface, you could roll this out directly on the surface. But I use a pastry cloth because that just makes my surface a lot smoother. It also gives me a little bit of friction, and it helps my stuff get rolled out a lot better. So the flour is really important. Without the flour, your dough will stick. And my stromboli dough is pretty sticky, so I get a good, generous layer of flour. Next thing I'm going to do is I have a cover here for my rolling pin. So I'm going to put that on. That also gives me a little more friction and helps my dough not stick as much. If you do not have a rolling pin cover, you can put lots and lots of flour on your rolling pin, and that also works. Okay, so now we're going to take our dough and we're going to dump it out of my bread machine pan here. And the first thing I'm going to do is just get the last little bits out. And then just make sure all this is covered in flour. It's going to be a lot easier to work with because that way it's not sticky. And now I'm just going to take my rolling pin and I'm just going to roll it out. And you want to make a long rectangle. So I'm going to roll this really as far as my pastry cloth will let me. And then I'm going to roll it out to the edges. And I'm basically going to have this about as far on the cloth as I can. After we get finished rolling it out, we're going to be putting our meats and cheeses on it and then folding it up. So I want to get as much surface area as I can, so I have enough room for lots of meats and cheese. Alright, this is pretty good. I've got a nice rectangle rolled out here. So now I'm going to do, you can use whatever combination of meat and cheese you want. What I personally have on hand is some deli ham that we used for some picnic sandwiches last week. So I'm just going to take my meat here and I'm just going to lay it out on the side of my dough. Now again, you could use ham, you can use roast beef, turkey, chicken, anything you want. You don't have to use deli style. You could use ham that you had cooked and just then slice it. So this, you're really flexible on what you can do in terms of your meat. So I'm just going to put that all right here and laying it out. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put out some cheese. And again, you're flexible in terms of what cheese you use as well. You can use, lots of stuff, good stuff goes with ham. Cheddar goes well, Swiss goes well. You've got all kinds of options. And so I am actually going to do a couple different kinds today. I am going to do some Monterey Jack black truffle kind, and I'm also going to do some Colby Jack. So I've got a couple different kinds I'm going to use. And you can be creative too, and then you can even be creative and have different kinds of meat, like half ham and half roast beef or turkey if you want. So I'm just going to put next to my meats, I'm going to lay out my cheeses here. And I'm going to have, just for some variety, and because I've got several different kinds of cheese on hand, I'm going to put a couple different kinds of cheese out on mine. So there's one kind, now I'm going to get some of this other kind out. And after I have put all my meat and cheese out, then I'll be able to start rolling it up. And I'm actually going to say, you know what? I'm going to put a couple extra pieces of cheese. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to put a little extra cheese along the edge out here where it's real thick. Just going to take a little bit here and just put a little more, as I want to be extra cheesy this time. Put one more piece. Alright, last piece. I'm just breaking them in half because I don't really have room for a whole piece of cheese here, but kind of want a little more cheese. Okay, but that's optional. Alright, so I got my meats and cheeses, so now it's time to start rolling it up. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to roll this part way over, and I come with this way, so you notice I rolled it basically over the side, over the cheese. I'm going to take my meat part, and I'm going to roll that, and put it over here so it's kind of covered. Now you see I've got the ends here, so I want to take my ends and roll up my ends. Going to kind of push it down. Going to roll this end. It gets really doughy. I'm going to push it down too. Next thing, really important, is you want to be sure your pan is sprayed with cooking spray. So I'm going to spray my dish with cooking spray. I picked a slightly smaller pan. I could use a little bigger pan, but I want one that goes in my dishwasher easily. I'm just going to pull this up a little bit. Now, I'm going to be flipping this because I want the seam side down while it bakes. So I can turn this over and put it here. I'm going to put mine kind of diagonal. If you had a bigger pan, you could put it straight, but it fits here well. All right, so now my pan is ready to go in the oven, and that's how you roll out stromboli.